Hey everyone, this is OJ here. Thanks for joining me today. I will be talking about Initiative Q. Now, this is not a new business. You've probably heard already about it. There's been a lot of blogs and a lot of videos by my fellow YouTubers here. And it's been taking a lot of criticism for the fact that it will have a currency, digital currency, but it will not be a cryptocurrency. It will not be based on the blockchain. Therefore, it will not be decentralized. That is one of the biggest criticisms that it's taken. It is called a financial experiment, so we'll need to find out more about it and what exactly do they mean by financial experiment. They were also criticized heavily for the fact that you had to sign up with an email address. Therefore, many people were saying that they're just building an email list, and also from the fact that after the initial setup and initial joining and getting some free Q coins that are not yet in existence, we didn't really hear much about it after that. So many people were thinking that this was a kind of a fraudulent, fake type of a business that was only aiming at collecting people's data. Now, to answer these kind of criticism and questions, I asked the founder, Saar Wilf, to join me in an interview, which you will see in just a couple of minutes. Bear in mind, the video is not the best quality because I'm currently in a hotel and my internet is not the best. And also it was late in the evening last night, so my light is also terrible, but forget all about this. It's a slightly worse quality than what you're seeing right now, so just be prepared about that. However, I'm bringing you the full interview and hopefully it will answer everyone's questions. Now, I was really wondering if this business is actually happening because, as I said, since I first heard about it, which was last year, quite some time passed without anything else going on. I didn't really hear any more people talking about it. I didn't see any activity on social media, and I must admit I'm not really following them on social media, but when a business is going, there is usually more information coming through, and there wasn't any information coming through. This is why we saw a lot of bloggers and a lot of YouTube videos claiming that this is basically just another scam. Whether it's a scam or not, you will be the judge. I'm bringing you the full interview with Saar, who is the founder of this business, and he answered my questions on all of the points that I mentioned about the fact that it's not a cryptocurrency. Why are they not using blockchain technology? What is wrong with blockchain technology? How centralized it is, how safe it is to be using a centralized digital currency? What is the need, in fact, for having their own native currency if they're bringing a new payment system? Because in fact what they're trying to do is to compete with the credit card payment system of today, because they see it as being ineffective and not the most secure, in terms of the fact that you have to provide a lot of personal details when you're paying with a credit card. You're providing your name, you're providing the card details, address, and the sensitive data like card secret number and stuff like that. So these are the things that they're trying to improve on, and a few other things that we discussed, including future developments and current developments with this business. So stay tuned. The interview is around just shorter than an hour long, so hopefully it will be interesting enough for you to stay until the end. And again, excuse me for the not so perfect quality of the interview. Welcome to this live call, Saar. Thank you for your time. How are you doing?
Good. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Let's talk about Initiative Q and what is happening with this project. I know that we first heard about it probably around a year ago, and in the beginning it created quite a bit of hype. There was a lot of excitement and everything, and then the interest kind of subsided. So I was wondering whether the project is still going, and this is when I reached out to you. So where are you at the moment?
Yeah, sure. So it's definitely very much still live. We are still accumulating users at a very, very nice rate. We've just reached 7 million users now. It does have some tendency to go in waves, as it's a viral thing, and one day you have one location that is very active, another day another location will be more active. But overall, it's still people are joining at pretty good rates. And now today we announced we're releasing the smartphone application, the Initiative Q app. So that will probably get some interest going. So yeah, that's where we are at today.
Right. Well, before we get into the details about the application and everything, let's explain first of all what is Initiative Q and how it is different than the currencies that we are aware of. I saw that one of the things is that it's actually quite different from a cryptocurrency, even though in the beginning, a lot of people were thinking that this is yet another cryptocurrency. And a lot of the criticism also came from the crypto community because, crypto community is all about decentralization and new high technology and everything. So how is Initiative Q different? I know that in a few different comments here and there, when people were quite negative about the fact that this is not a cryptocurrency, it is not decentralized, you were saying that you're not against cryptocurrency, you're not against blockchain or Bitcoin per se, and you just didn't feel that this is the right technology for this. So what exactly is Initiative Q and how it's going to work?
Initiative Q is a very ambitious project to build basically a new payment system and perhaps the financial system over a new global digital currency. So this comes back to one of the basic problems in payments, and this is a problem I've basically personally experienced over 20 years ago when I started my first startup, which was in payments, when people were starting to look to buy online and they didn't have a good way to pay. So it was very clear there needs to be a lot of change, a lot of innovation in payments, and a lot of good ideas need to come in. But eventually, even though there were amazing projects and great startups trying to build innovation in payments, the solution that was accepted overall was basically credit cards. People typing a clear text, unencrypted number, and the seller just saying how much the card should be charged, and can then go and charge whatever amount he wants. That's the system that eventually won, which is obviously not the best, not the most secure, not the most efficient and easy to use. But it won because it had already a critical mass of buyers and sellers that could easily migrate their orders online. They had this phone ordering system that you could dial in your credit card, so they just transferred into an online form, and they had the payment system that's ready to work and everyone can use it, and that's the only reason they won, even though they were by far the most inferior technology. Because they had critical mass, they won. So building on that understanding, Initiative Q is trying to gain critical mass for a new payment system by getting people motivated to join. Because the problem, no one wants to join a new payment network if there's nothing to buy. No seller will join if there's no one to sell to. So how do you get people motivated to be the first to join? So the idea is, if you build a new payment network with all the great technology, and you build it on a new currency, which is also an advantage, a fully digital currency, you can distribute this currency to people for free. This is something you need to do anyway. You need a lot of people to have a currency. You constantly need to release currency as a payment network, as a financial system grows. That's to prevent inflation. So give the currency for free to people who move the network forward, who help it grow. So basically people who register, people who bring their friends, and now people who install the app will get other people to install the app. So anyone who does something that gets the network to critical mass is compensated with reserving this future currency. So that's a concept of Initiative Q. First of all, it's a payment network, it's a payment system, but it uses a new digital currency to get off the ground.
Now, here is my question. If this is an alternative payment network and it's going to compete with, say, Visa, MasterCard, credit card payments, Why do you think there is a need for a native currency like the Q, rather than using, the currencies that people are using in different countries, like the popular currencies, dollar, euro, pound, or
Yeah,
whatever
the government currencies. Yes. So, in theory, if you could you could build a payment system that uses all the latest technology in fraud prevention and credit and dispute resolution and smartphone apps and point of sale systems. If you could get all these technologies that are out there, and you could get them and build this new system and make it work over government currencies of the US dollar and euro, that's an amazing project. You've got $100 billion companies for sure, but you can't do that. No one will come to your new network because you don't have critical mass. So it is something that has value, but if you add to this a new digital currency, you get this new engine of motivation. You get this new asset that's created out of thin air, this new value to the currency that you can give to all the people who are in the network, and by that get them motivated. So theoretically, you could build a payment network without a new currency, and it would work perfectly. There is an advantage to have a fully digital currency. It's much easier in terms of managing, complying with AML, money laundering regulations, and stuff like that. It's much better currency. It's much better system if you build with a new currency, but you don't have to. But the main advantage is that it allows you to get people motivated, to get people to have a reason to join, even when there's no critical mass.
Right, and it also says on the website that you will basically have a more secure system than Visa and the other credit card systems at the moment. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? How is that going to?
Yeah, I don't think we say secure. I'm sure Visa and MasterCard networks are highly secured. We're talking about mostly about fraud prevention and identification mechanisms. So today, the way these methods are designed is about 50 years old. So the idea of you holding a plastic card with numbers on it, or a magnetic stripe, or even a chip, this is like very old concepts. Yeah, there's no need to get people to carry another identification mechanism. You could use smartphones. Smartphones have fingerprint identification, face IDs. So in terms of the front end, the identification part, you can improve on it a lot. Of course, there are people doing that. That's not something we invented. There are many people who want to make.
We have Apple Pay already, Samsung Pay coming, and yeah.
Exactly. So you have people who want to make mobile payment happen. It's not something we invented. It's definitely something that everyone knows needs to happen. Apple and Google and Samsung, they all have a big advantage in that they have some critical mass already that they can get people, more easy to join. But still, that's only one part of the problem. There's also protecting the seller side, and there's protecting the payment itself, the fraud that is not related to identification. So there are a lot of issues around security that are currently not handled as good as current technology allows, just because you're relying on a network that was built 50 years ago.
Now, you've built a company that was later acquired by PayPal. Tell us a little bit about your history and what you've done in the past prior to this project.
So I was a technologist since I was a child. I then did this payment startup I just talked about in '97, which wasn't very successful, as many payment startups at that time all failed because they couldn't get critical mass, which is what we learned. I then went as the lesson for that startup. What I did is, instead of trying to build a new payment network, is to make the inefficient, inferior product of credit cards work a bit better online. So we developed very nice algorithms to detect when people are using someone else's credit card. So that was for Sciences. That was acquired by PayPal and became a very central part of PayPal's security. Later on, I did several startups around AI, computer vision, optics, some fintech. So yeah, so that's what's been happening since.
Now, before we move on, let me address some of the criticism. You have had some fierce critics online. I'm going to read a few comments from a very popular video that was posted by Kiana Daniel, and she has about 60,000 views, so there was a lot of comments in there. One comment says, "Data is money." Another comment is saying, "I don't know if I will ever come to any value, if it will ever come to any value, but sometimes you have to take a bit of a risk, and this looks like a decent calculated risk. I passed up the opportunity of buying Bitcoin in its early stages around years ago, so there's value around that." So this is a positive comment. Now here's another one. SD79 is saying, "I really have no idea how far this new so-called system will work. People were skeptical, and they were skeptical during the 80s about the internet, and during the late 2000s and early 2010 around cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc. So who knows if it will really be able to." That's where it ends. Another comment, "A fabulous way to build a mailing list." There is another comment here, Marcian Voisu, "Another BitConnect scam." Oh, ouch. This is not a good one. Jerry Moore is saying, "I think that anyone who believes you get something for nothing still believes in Easter Bunny and should hire some Wall Street crook to manage their money for them. Or they do something useful and give it to a chosen charity." So let's address some of these comments. I mean, there's many more.
So basically there are three themes you mentioned. One is people saying we're doing this to get email addresses. So just in general, people tend to think that their information is worth a lot, and you can sell it for information is worthless. Everyone's email is somewhere in some list with their name and probably with a lot of more information. You can get it at dollars for millions. It's not interesting at all. What's interesting is having people's attention, dedication. Okay, so the huge value that, say, Facebook has per user is not because they know your name. It's because you are very attached to the system, that you use it. They have an impact on your behavior. That's what matters. There's no interest in collecting just a bunch of emails and names. Having said that, I want to be clear, we have no interest in doing anything other than building an outstanding payment system. If we do not manage to get critical mass, then we will just erase the database. We have nothing to do with it. I have personally no interest in doing something that does not benefit humanity. I have no interest in making money at the expense of other people. That's not interesting to me. I've done enough in my life. That's not the goal I have in life. The other theme is this is a scam, something from nothing, free money is impossible, no free lunch. This is another popular theme, and this is by far our main problem. People are very trained, conditioned, and correctly to believe that there is no free lunch, no such thing as a free lunch. And if you're not paying, then you are the product. And in general, that is very correct, and you need to be very careful when you hear offers like this, which is a big problem for us. However, there is one area where that is incorrect, and that is monetary systems in money. Money has value because people trust in it. Okay, there's maybe $100 trillion worth of currency out there, and it's basically just papers and mostly digits on a computer. And the reason it has value is because people believe it has value, because they're willing to give their work for that money, and they believe someone else will give the products of their work for that money. That's all it is, just a way for people to manage their trust and exchange with one another. So if you manage to get people to believe in a new currency, to trust it, to see that it is better for them, it's cheaper for them, more efficient for them to use this new kind of money, then that money will become popular and will become gradually trusted as people get more experience with it and trust it more. And it will just create a lot of value out of thin air. That's exactly what money is. When you get people to trust in new money, value is created, perceived value is created, and that is what you can distribute freely to everyone. So basically, we need people to trust it. If we don't get people to trust, if we don't get people to join, if we don't get people to believe in this, the currency will not be valuable. So it's our interest to give the currency for free. That's,
Yes, I mean, I think a good example here would be with cryptocurrencies, because we have seen that on both points. First, on the trust point, the fact that people did not trust cryptocurrencies in the first 5, 6, 7 years, and it took them quite a while. But as soon as people started trusting Bitcoin and the other currencies, we saw that 2016 and 17 were quite a big hype, and the value went astronomically because more and more people started believing in this. On the other hand, people started believing it because of certain reasons. It wasn't just because other people told them so. It was because they saw the qualities of these currencies, the tech behind them. Blockchain became such a big thing. Many businesses were interested in blockchain, even if they were not interested in Bitcoin per se. So I think the technology is what drove a lot of that interest in cryptocurrencies, and some of the critiques here for your project are basically questioning the technology. So how is Initiative Q going to build that trust? How is Initiative Q going to address the problem of is it worth anything, and make people believe in it?
Sure. So, yeah. Sure. First, just to correct. So the huge spike in value that cryptocurrencies had a couple of years ago is not exactly the same as the value of trust in money that I was talking about. It was more about the speculative value of people believing that this could be become a currency and then will have a lot of value. So it's a bit different. It was still a speculation stage of the value.
Yes, correct.
But of course, as you said, having an interesting technology, a way for money to be, for accounts to be managed decentralized, is a very interesting concept, a genius concept, and it got people to speculate that it could become a major currency in the future. In terms of how we look at blockchain and cryptocurrencies, so basically we have one goal. We have the goal of making a superior payment system that people will want to use. We will prefer to pay with it. We prefer to accept money with it. Okay, so that is the only thing we care about. And that's something we understand very well. We know very well. And all we need to do, we don't need to make any technological innovations. The technology is out there. Everyone knows how a superior payment system looks like. So what we need to do is we need to get these technologies implemented and adopted by the masses. Okay. Now, when we looked at what needs to happen and how a superior payment system would look and what needs to happen for it to be adopted, we found blockchain to be not mature enough to support a major digital currency. There are many areas where it is still immature. The main thing it is there is no efficient way to maintain purchasing power stability. Okay, that means that if you accept the currency, you know that you can hold to it and expect it to have a similar value in 1 year. Okay, that's if you can buy 4 tomatoes with it today, you can buy 4 tomatoes with it in 1 year. Give or take. Okay.
Yeah, given there's no inflation. This is a concept that we are seeing later. I mean, this year is quite big on stable coins in cryptocurrency space. Quite a few companies started developing their own stable coins. I think even Facebook is rumored to be working on one. So can we compare Q to a stable coin in any way?
Yeah, so let me explain why this is why it's not mature enough. Just in general, to be clear, if someone managed to develop a stable cryptocurrency, and we are free to use it, we will use it. There are some advantages to blockchain that we like, and if someone managed to solve the disadvantages, we game. We only care about the best technology. We don't have any agenda about, you know, circumventing governments or regulations or decentralized. We don't care about that. We care about customer experience. We want people to be as happy as possible with their payment system. So what is the problem with blockchain and stability? So in order to maintain purchasing power stability, you need the amount of currency that is circulating in the market to be proportional to the amount of economic activity that is happening in the system, and to the amount of reserves people hold of the currency. And these two parameters can change very rapidly. Okay, economic growth can grow very, very rapidly, and then you can get a recession. You could get economic activity slowing down. You can get economic activity coming out and inside to your network, and you can have people deciding to reserve more or less of this currency on their wallets. Okay, that also changes the purchasing power of the currency. And you need to manage the amount of currency according to these two parameters. Okay, that is not something that anyone can do automatically. This requires experienced monetary economists constantly studying the activity on the network and constantly adjusting financial parameters in order to change the money supply, the amount of currency in the network. This is how government currencies are managed in all advanced economies, and it's been working very well for decades now, which is a big achievement, something that young people may not fully appreciate, but 40 years ago, a lot of countries had very high inflation. There was a big risk about your currency. You were not sure that it would be worth the same in 1 year. This is something that in generally was solved. Okay, this was solved by having independent central banks with experienced economists constantly studying the system and constantly managing the money supply. So this is the only way currently known in order to maintain purchasing power stability. There is no automatic method that currently works, that is proven to work. Maybe someone will make one up, someone will find one, that would be great, we will use it. At this point, this is the only way there is. And if you need to have a committee, a central power that can change the money supply, you are not decentralized. There is no way to be decentralized when you have this, when you need this capability. Okay, so that means you can do blockchain and you can call it decentralized and you can use thousands of private servers, but if someone can control the money supply in the middle, then it's not decentralized and the whole blockchain thing is useless. You put it there just so you could say blockchain in your business model, but it means nothing if you have this capability. So that is the reason we decided not to use blockchain in our network.
Right, and at the same time, I would argue that the crypto community is probably your first potential customers, because these are the early adopters and these are the people who are interested in alternative currencies. And what you are developing here is, in fact, an alternative currency, an alternative payment system, but with an alternative currency as well. So how do you see, how do you think you'll be able to win the affection of the crypto community, especially because most of the critique actually comes from crypto people, isn't it? Is that a goal? Do you see that as an obstacle for you? Do you think you need to work on it, or are you not worried about it at all?
Okay, so I think in general our reach is far beyond the crypto community. I think definitely people who have strong opinions about us, whether positive or negative, are in the crypto community, but we have reach that is far beyond that in all directions. We didn't specifically target this community, and I can't say I'm too worried whether we are answering their concerns or not. it's an important community, but it's still a very small part of the world economy at this point. So it's not very important to us whether we're positively accepted in this community. Our goal is to make superior payment technology and get it widely accepted. We don't care if it's this technology or another technology. We don't care if it's decentralized or centralized. We don't care if it helps money laundering or prevents money laundering. We need it to work, and we need to to work. There's sort of things you need to happen.
And what about compliance in terms of if you are going to be international, surely it will be quite a challenge to be compliant with different regulations in different governments, and especially if you're going to be disrupting the current payment systems, which are also a lot of the times quite tight with governments and central banks. Do you see that as a challenge? What are the challenges there?
Yeah, so definitely regulation is one of the big challenges of when you're creating a new global payment network. These are mostly existing regulations around money laundering or your customers. So these are things money transfer will definitely need to comply with all these regulations. In terms of disrupting, so as much as we're adding competition to existing payment systems, actually central banks are on our side. They want to increase competition in the financial sector. That's one of the things that's important to financial stability, which is one of the charters of every central bank. So in so much as we increase competition to existing payment systems, the central banks like us. In the points where we possibly, this is a very long-term goal, possibly risk the control of the central bank on the currency. Okay, if you start having people, 20% of some country's economy is starting to run on a currency that is not the government currency, that in some way reduces the control that the central bank has. But you need to remember the central banks are not a for-profit company. They're not looking to make money from this, okay? So if we can achieve the same goals they're trying to achieve, or even better, in terms of stability of purchasing power, in terms of supporting economic growth and so on, if we manage to do that, at least as good as them, they're happy, okay? They don't need to see us as a risk. So that is how we view these two aspects.
Okay, and on the website, you have an estimate. Of course, this is a projection for the future, estimate of one kucoin being equal to $1. Can you tell me how did you come to that figure? How did you make that projection, and how realistic it is?
Okay, so this is something we did with monetary economists, and we actually have a few new economists joining us past few weeks, which we announced. So this is, I will try to give a quick review how it works. So basically, imagine you have an economy, people transacting with each other, okay? Every exchange of goods and services is accompanied by an opposite exchange of money, okay? So in general, the amount of money that is passing between people is equal to the value of the goods that is passing between people. Okay, so the value of the money is equal to the value of the economy. The question is, over how much time? Okay, and the answer to that's called the velocity of money. It's basically the question is, how much reserves does each person hold in the pocket for the future? The global average is around 6 months. We assume lower numbers, of course, for our payment system, at least as long as it doesn't become one of the main networks in the world, we assume people will hold lower reserves. But basically, once you know how much economic activity is running on your network, and you know how much reserves of the currency people have, you have a pretty easy calculation of the value of the currency. So looking at the numbers of leading payment networks today and estimates of how many reserves people may want to hold of Q, you get somewhere in the range of a few $trillion. We use the number $2 trillion as an estimate. This is, of course, assuming we are successful in launching a leading payment network. If we don't, this is all worth nothing, just if it's not obvious, yeah? But if we manage to build a leading payment network, if we're like one of the top 10 in the world, then the value of the currency will be somewhere in the $2 trillion range. And we are issuing 2 trillion Qs, so that gives you roughly 1 Q per dollar. One thing that's maybe important to understand here.
Sorry, this will be the total supply, or are you open to issuing more later on if there is demand?
Okay, so I will explain. So it's important to understand 1 Q is always going to be $1. It's not pegged to the dollar, but it's going to be around $1 value. If maybe the dollar falls or something, then maybe it would be worth than $1. But in general, that's the estimate of the purchasing power. That will always be the number. The question is how many Qs are available to use and trade. Okay, so currently we are distributing around 2 trillion Qs to everyone, but they will not be available to use on day one. When we launch the payment network, you will not be able to use all the Qs you have. They will be released gradually as the payment system grows. Okay, so as we become a bigger and bigger payment system, then more of your Qs can be released and used in trade, and still 1 Q is about $1 at any point in time. If we grow beyond this goal and become an even bigger payment network, then there will become a need to release more Qs into the network and distribute more to the community. And that will, of course, mean that there will be more Qs, but still around 1 Q to $1. The only reason we're releasing it is to prevent deflation. We want to prevent a situation where the purchasing power increases, where you have a currency now that buys 4 tomatoes, and in 1 year you expect it to buy 8 tomatoes. If that happens, that means people start to hoard the money. It's a good investment. You don't want to use it to payment. You want to hoard it in order to appreciate in value. And that means that the payment network is dead, because no one wants to use the currency for payments. They want to use it for investment, and then the whole thing collapses. So it's very important to maintain the purchasing power stability.
Right. So yeah, you will be maintaining that same value more or less, so that people are not incentivized to actually hold it, which is the opposite of what's happening with Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. The incentive there was actually the speculative side of it, and the fact that they were growing for quite a while, and many people wanted to hold them, and that is still one of the issues of Bitcoin, the fact that not many people were willing to spend it. So in terms of spending,
just one thing important to make clear. When you say we are not releasing currency, okay? The decision of how much currency is in the system is not the Initiative Q company decision. This is the decision of a separate entity, which is the Monetary Committee, which is similar to what central banks are in a government currency. Okay, so the plan here is to build.
In which jurisdiction is that monetary committee?
So this is a global monetary committee. This is a separate entity from the Initiative Q company. It doesn't exist yet. Once we launch the payment network, we will establish the monetary committee. These are economists, and they are compensated to maintain the purchasing power stability and the growth of the system. And they have the mandate to decide how many currencies are released at what rate and so on. And this is not something we can control. So it's very unhealthy for a payment company to be able to control the money supply. So that's why we're looking to establish a separate entity for that is independent, very similar to how central banks are generally, to a large extent, independent from the governments of that country.
Now, let's talk about usability and user adoption. You just mentioned that you're in the process of releasing the mobile phone app. When is that coming? How is it going to be rolled out? And what are the features that are currently going to be? I mean, if people are not yet receiving their coins, clearly it will not be usable straight away. So yeah, tell me, elaborate on that, please.
Sure. So we just announced it today. So the idea here is to get similar to how we got a lot of people to register. Now we want a lot of people to install the app. The app at this point doesn't do anything that's related to payment. It gives you a very easy way to track your account, the people you invited, all the bonuses you receive, get notifications when there's progress in the network, stuff like that. So it's a nice tool for people who are interested in Initiative Q and wanted to succeed. But at this point, it doesn't allow you to pay. However, what it does give us, if we manage to get a lot of people to install the app, that gives us an infrastructure where we can automatically update that and add the functionality of payments with Q once the network is launched. Okay, so that's another step forward in getting to the full payment network. So the idea here is that at every point you do a small step, you ask people to do something that is not very troubling to them, not very disturbing, and they can, and step by step, we gradually build the whole network. Okay, and each time you get queues for the little step you do.
You unlock another amount of queue.
Yeah. So as time, every person who installs the app gets more queues, and gradually you build the network and get it more and more advanced and more technology in, until at the end you have a fully functioning payment network that can be launched.
Well, you mentioned that you already have a few million subscribers. When you say if we get enough people to use the app, what kind of a number is in your head? What is enough? I mean, not as enough as in complete number, but what is good enough to actually keep you going?
Right. So we estimate that if we manage to get around 10% of the people in some city, geography, small area who are already registered and interested and want Initiative Q to succeed, that is enough to launch the payment network in that location. We should be getting there at around maybe 30 million people globally. It depends how it's distributed, but somewhere in that range is the point where we can look into launching payment networks.
So you still have quite some room to grow. I mean, 10% in a region, I would say, is quite an ambitious figure.
We have areas where we're already at 2-3%.
Right, but I mean, in certain cosmopolitan cities, that would be a bit of a hard task to do, isn't it? It has been a while since we first heard about Initiative Q. Do you think we'll be waiting for another couple of years before we see anything else happening, or do you have more things in the roadmap to be releasing over the next quarter, maybe the following quarter?
So in terms of when we could expect the first payment network to launch, it could be anywhere between a year and never. Okay, it all depends on how we grow. If people continue to join and continue to believe in it, continue to be enthusiastic about it, it will succeed. If they don't, it will not succeed. This whole thing is a game of trust. If enough people trust in it, then it can be built, then it can succeed, then it can be adopted, then it will have value. That's all there is to this.
Right, and again, we're talking about trust. Now, here I want you to point out which are the channels where you are most active as a company, of course, that people can monitor regular updates and things like that. I mean, besides the website, of course, once you are subscribed to the website, you have an account, you have a dashboard. Now you're going to have the phone application, so possibly you will be able to see something there, but I doubt if it's going to be necessarily updates or regular posts or anything like that. Is it Twitter? Is it Facebook? Is it any other social media where you are more active so that people can actually have a more kind of a day-to-day interaction?
Yeah, so we release updates on Twitter and Facebook. We will release updates in the app, but it's going to only if there's something important. We're not going to be disturbing users too much. So yeah, these are the three channels where you can get updates.
And you can see the links right now here displayed on the screen. These are the links for the Twitter and for the Facebook. So these are the two channels where you're most active, where people can actually have proper day-to-day interaction, isn't it? Because that is very important, you see, for people to see that there is activity, to see that you are not just being dormant, but there's, development is going on. I'm pointing this out because when I spoke to people, when I first heard about Initiative Q, as I said, like almost a year ago, and then I sent my link to a few people that I know, and a few other people who are following me and everything. But then it was a period of, I would say, at least the last 6 months or something, we didn't really hear much. And I must admit, I'm not really following on Twitter and Facebook, so I wasn't seeing your updates and posts. And to me, it just seemed for a while like the project is not really going anywhere. And on top of that, I was seeing a lot of my fellow YouTubers, doing videos and bloggers posting sorts of negative posts because perhaps it's the lack of information and the lack of transparency. So there was a lot of criticism and there wasn't enough activity on your part for me to actually realize that, no, this project is still going. This is the reason why we're doing this interview. I wanted to find out, are things moving? Are things happening?
Sure. Yeah, I understand. So you need to understand, a lot of it is not in our control. So virality, it's an exponential system. Okay, so if you have each person inviting 1.2 friends on average, then and they're doing it pretty quickly. It happens within hours. Then in a month, it explodes. Yeah, and then if there's a period where people are inviting 0.8 friends, then it subsides and then it goes up again, and the virality changes in different areas of the world. So the amount of buzz is not something we can control. It really changes depending on location and what's hot and what's happening at each location at each time. We are on our side. The only thing we can do is we can continue working on developing the system and improving our communications and the updates and getting more people. But that's
yes, no,
that's the best we can do.
I think being active and doing regular updates is definitely helping, because this is how people can see that you are keeping busy and that you have not abandoned the project. I mean, this is one of the issues with cryptocurrencies. Again, I have to mention, because this is really my domain. But with cryptocurrencies, one of the key things is for people to see activity, because there have been a lot of instances, a lot of examples where projects get abandoned and developers move on to other projects, and these projects literally die off, and and people even lose money. Now, I know that here there's no money involved yet, but at the end of the day, the monetary reward is one of the biggest incentive for people to be excited about it and to get involved. And you were criticized about a slightly aggressive, or to some people very aggressive, marketing campaign with the rewards that you are doing. To me personally, because I'm coming with a marketing background, I don't really think it was aggressive. And even though it was on a slightly multi-level kind of a structure, it is not exactly an MLM or anything like that. Some people were saying that it's a pyramid scheme. I don't think they understand the pyramid scheme like that claim, so I wouldn't even go there to make you justify that, because I don't even see it as that. But in terms of marketing and further developments, do you have anything that is coming in the next in the near future that you want to announce now?
There's nothing that's available for release at this point. Anything we can divulge yet. Next few weeks will definitely be focused on getting all the feedback on the app and see how to improve it.
And for those who are not familiar, tell us again, with downloading the app, you are unlocking another sort of a bounty, another type of reward. What is it?
It depends on your account. So each person, the earlier you joined, the more you reserved. So the app releases some percent of that. So for each user, it's a different amount, but it's the same percent for everyone. And on the spot, I think it is 10%, but not sure.
No, well, that's good enough. Okay, well, thank you very much for that call. Well, thanks, Saar, for joining me today, and I do wish you all the best. I hope that people do keep being excited and invite more people so that we can actually see this project come to fruition, because you know, it's good to see these kind of new developments, and especially in the financial sector, which has been quite stale for a long time. So yes, thumbs up, and thank you for joining me. Thank you for your time and answering all of my questions. Also, guys, to you, thank you for watching until the end. And if you have any other questions or comments, just leave the comments in the comments below section, and check out the description box where I will have all the necessary links. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you very much.
And there you have it. So this was the complete interview of my conversation with Saar Wilf, the founder of Initiative Q. I hope it answered all of your questions, and of course, if you have any other questions, leave a comment in the comment section below. Also check out the description of this video, where I've got the links to their social media channels and everything. I don't have my invite link. Don't think that I'm doing this to promote the business. I really wanted to just bring awareness to you know, and to get answers to all of these questions, because just like you guys, I also wanted to know whether this is a real business and whether it will be working, or whether it was just another hoax. So hopefully we managed to get that clear, and I'm not really trying to persuade you in any way whether you should believe in that business or not, but seeing all of the other YouTubers and all of the bloggers who are making reviews without actually reaching out to the directors or the people involved with this business, I felt that it was my duty to speak to someone who is in that business, rather than just making assumptions based on, you know, just speculating on whether this is a real business or not. And as you heard it from Saar himself, even he cannot confirm whether the business will be successful at this point yet. It is a startup, so there is some more work to be done before it can actually take off. So from me, all I can say is fingers crossed. I hope that this business is going to happen, and I hope that it will be successful, because at the end of the day, creating more competition and disrupting any industry right now is a good thing. At least in my view, it's a good thing. We see that Apple is trying to disrupt that business already. They just announced that they will be issuing their own digital cards and things like that. So there is a lot of movement now happening with the financial services, and I'm eager to see where is that going to take us. Thanks for watching until the end, guys, and if you haven't yet, please subscribe to this channel. More good content is coming your way.